A shakeup today in how drunk driving is prosecuted here in Minnesota. The Minnesota Court of Appeals issued a new ruling today.
This is really a big deal. It says a law that allows suspected drunk drivers to be charged for refusing blood or urine tests is unconstitutional. 5 Eyewitness News reporter Joe Augustine is here with reaction to the ruling. Joe?
Well, guys, this has been an ongoing issue for years, really, in Minnesota. Earlier this year, the Minnesota Supreme Court said suspected drunk drivers who refuse to take a breath test can be charged with the crime. But now the State Court of Appeals says suspected drunk drivers cannot be charged for refusing to take a blood or urine test.
Oh, it is a precedent. It's a published opinion.
Attorney Charles Ramsey has been fighting Minnesota's test refusal law for decades, and he just landed his biggest punch.
If a judge ruled today, they would have to follow this case.
The case involves Ryan Mark Thompson, who was convicted of refusing to take a blood or urine test after a DUI arrest in Owatonna in 2012. Thompson argued the conviction violated his constitutional rights.
It's not a crime to refuse blood. It's not a crime to refuse urine.
On Monday, the Minnesota Court of Appeals agreed, saying criminalizing the refusal to submit warrantless blood or urine tests violates the right to due process. That's where we stand, right?
That's where we stand today.
This is all for the kids to see this.
The ruling was a gut punch for King Demetrius Pendleton. His daughter was killed by a suspected drunk driver in 2013 on Olson Memorial Highway in Minneapolis.
This was the car that they were in that was totally crushed. The back part was in the front.
Philip Bertelson was eventually convicted of vehicular homicide, but the alcohol-related charges were dropped because a blood test showing he was more than twice the legal limit was done without a warrant, while Bertelson was still unconscious.
You couldn't make this up.
Pendleton is now an advocate fighting to stop drunk driving.
They will not forget this.
He says Monday's ruling will reverse more than convictions.
For them to throw that law out, it's like they're giving people just the okay to go on and start drinking and driving more.
It will reverse progress. And the defense attorney who says this law is unconstitutional fully expects this case to now go to the Minnesota Supreme Court.
But Joe, you said the U.S. Supreme Court's also involved in
That's right. The nation's highest court earlier this year agreed to hear a separate case involving Minnesota's controversial law. So there are really a lot of different courts weighing in on this issue right now. Ultimately, if the U.S. Supreme Court decides that part of this law or all of this law is constitutional, well, then the law's out.
But that's why this is a big deal.
Yep, we're going to have to see how it progresses.
Joe Augustine, thank you. Leo?